Chris, can we do a mic test?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yep. Can we see you?
Nope.
There you are.
Hold on. Just for that.
Oh,
Nope.
Nice. Thank you.
Yeah. One of my buddies that he makes those t-shirts, so I got one.
Nice.
Hi, Christy, getting freight right. The history meeting.
Okay, it's 6 o'clock. I'd like to call to order the regularly scheduled assembly meeting here on Tuesday, September 24th. Please stand for a flag salute.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
The Assembly of the City and Borough of Sitka would like to respectfully acknowledge the traditional first people of Sitka. With gratitude, we proceed on Tlingit Ani. Sarah, roll call.
Mayor Eisenbeis isn't here. Mr. Mosier,
Here.
Mr. Pike,
Here.
Mr. Yestad,
Here.
Mr. Christensen,
Here.
Ms. Carlson,
Here.
and Mr. Celine.
Here.
Are there any correspondence or agenda changes? Seeing none, we'll go to, well, I'm just going to make an announcement under ceremonial matters. I just want to shout out and give a congratulations to Sitka's Little League softball majors team. They won the state championships this summer and traveled down to California to complete. So good job. That's wonderful. Okay, special reports, government to government. I believe Tribal Chair Woody Widmark has a special report. Yeah, that's.
Well, I apologize for not being here for a couple months. I was on the road off and on. So want to report the August 21st and September 18th tribal council meetings. One in August was pretty short. We did the enrollment resolutions. The council approved a resolution authorizing the chair to sign the 2025 annual funding agreement and reprogramming requests with the Office of Self-Governance for the Bureau of Indian Affairs. The tribal council approved the resolution authorizing BHA, Baranof Island Housing Authority, to submit the FY24 Indian Housing Block Grant application. On September 18th, we hosted Secretary of Interior, Deb Holland. She was in Sitka, so we were lucky to spend a couple hours with her during a work session, or a couple months ago. We had a work session last Wednesday with the Park Service regarding the Kiksati Survival March project. It's been going on for a number of years, and it was our work session, and we passed a resolution to keep it going. In our last meeting, again, we had enrollment resolutions, relinquishment resolution. The council approved submittal of the 2023 financial audit for the Federal Clearinghouse. Council appointed an election supervisor for the upcoming tribal council election in November. We have not yet appointed 2 election judges. And last but not least, the council designated the community house as the tribal location for the tribal council election. That's my report. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Appreciate you coming. It's always a pleasure. Okay, now we're going to, the rest of the, I gotta go through the special reports. Are there any municipal boards, commissions, committees? municipal departments, school district, students and guests. Okay, now we go to persons to be heard. This is where, sorry, I gotta get the thingy. Okay. Public participation on any item off the agenda. All public testimony is not to exceed 3 minutes for any individual. If anyone's got public comment, come on up. Okay, seeing none, we'll go to the consent agenda.
I move to approve the consent agenda consisting of item A, approving the minutes of the September 5th, 10th, and 13th assembly meetings, and item B, approve liquor license renewal applications for the Sitka Golf Association doing business at Sea Mountain Restaurant and 19 hole at 301 Granite Creek Road, and Alejandro Vasquez non-operational restaurant eating place license.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Is there any public comment? Seeing none, comes back to the assembly for a vote.
All right, on the motion to approve the consent agenda consisting of items A and B, Mr. Pike,
Yes.
Ms. Carlson? Yes. Mr. Christensen,
Yes.
Mr. Yestad,
Yes.
Mr. Mosher,
Yes,
and Mr. Celine.
Yes.
The motion passes 6-0 on the consent agenda.
thank you, Sarah. That brings us to board, commission, and committee appointments. Can I get a motion?
I move to appoint Bruce Gazaway to a 3-year term on the Library Commission and to Robert Mulder to a 3-year term on the Local Emergency Planning Committee under Category 2, Law Enforcement, Civil Defense, Firefighting, First Aid, Local Environmental Hospital, and Transportation.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Is there any public comment on this one? Yes. Seeing none, come back to the table for deliberation. Okay, seeing none, I'll just say thank you for serving. Sarah?
All right, on the motion to appoint these two individuals, Mr. Yestad,
Yes.
Ms. Carlson,
Yes.
Mr. Mosher,
Yes,
Mr. Pike,
Yes.
Mr. Christensen,
Yes.
and Mr. Celine.
Yes.
Motion passes 6-0 on item C.
and Chris, I apologize if you've been waving me down. I don't think you have, but if you do have a comment, please just wave or just speak up. I'll try to watch for you. Okay, that moves us to unfinished business. Item D.
I move to approve ordinance 2024-23 on first reading, making supplemental appropriations for fiscal year 2025 emergency response vessel electronics harbor department equipment.
Second.
Did I do the wrong one? Sorry. I tried.
I was sold.
Ready? Okay,
Yep.
sorry.
Item D.
I move to approve ordinance 2024-22 on second and final reading, making supplemental appropriations for fiscal year 2025, recycling and municipal fleet electrification.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Is there any public comment on this issue? Okay, seeing none, back to the assembly table.
Just want to again say that good job going out there and getting these grants.
Yes, absolutely. This is good news. It's good that we're able to do this. Okay, Sarah?
All right, on the motion to approve this ordinance on second and final reading, Mr. Christensen,
Yes.
Ms. Carlson,
Yes.
Mr. Celine,
Yes.
Mr. Pike,
Yes.
Mr. Yestad,
Yes.
and Mr. Mosher.
Yes.
The motion passes 6-0 on item D.
Okay, on to new business. Item E.
I'm ready now. I move to approve ordinance 2024-23 on first reading, making supplemental appropriations for fiscal year 2025 emergency response vessel electronics harbor department equipment.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Before we go to public comment, we're going to have Mr. Beatty and/or Craig Warren to introduce. You can both come up if you want.
This one's pretty easy. Obviously, I'm not going to speak toward the Harbor Department's fund. We've been having on the ERV, intermittent electronics issues. They're approximately 18 years old, and we would have just changed them, except that this is crossing the threshold to a fixed asset. So rather than come to the assembly and ask for more money, you can see that we're decreasing the tools and small equipment and the supplies budget by 3,000 each, which historically we should be okay doing. And so this is a net zero. It's just basically changing the line item so that we're putting it into a fixed asset, which we've reached that threshold for. Melissa, did I say that all correctly?
You did. And it's exactly the same for the Harbor Department as well. Theirs is also a net zero. This is just changing the flavor of the funding.
Okay.
And giving you the authority.
Does Mr. Beatty have anything?
Sure, since I came up here, I just want to say ditto.
All right. Thank you, guys. So,
Stan's gonna talk about his item.
well, we're not done.
It's all one.
It's all one.
Okay. Okay, Stan, come on up. So Stan will introduce, and then we'll go to public comment.
So this is an appropriation for a new Trimble handheld, which we use daily to conduct vessel inventory. That data is uploaded into the marina management system, specifically for billing for moorage, transit electricity, and it's got some more useful things that comes along with it. I'd like to keep two on board. We lost one here. We didn't lose it. It just failed for whatever reason a couple of weeks ago. And I always want to have, again, two on board. There's the old saying there, one is none, two is one. So I'd like to get this ordered as soon as possible, just in case we happen to lose our other one overboard. Just joking.
Sounds good.
Okay.
Thank you, Stan. Okay, now we'll go to public comment. If anyone has any comments about this item. Okay, seeing none, back to the assembly for deliberation.
I would just say that this, I understand why some people wanted us to do something to vote on this, but this strikes me as under miscellaneous. And used to argue about little stuff like this all the time. And I guess I would hope that we can figure out a way to not have to.
I agree. Okay, anyone else? Sarah?
All right, on the motion to approve ordinance 2024-23 on first reading, Ms. Carlson,
Yes.
Mr. Yestad,
Yes.
Mr. Celine,
Yes.
Mr. Mosier,
Yes.
Mr. Pike,
Yes.
and Mr. Christensen.
Yes.
Motion passes 6-0 on first reading.
Okay, on to item F. Can we get a motion? Oh, sorry, this is a discussion direction decision of the municipal administrator's annual recommended transfer to the public infrastructure sinking fund. Melissa, you're going to give us an overview?
Yes, so our code requires that every year, 90 days after the end of the fiscal year, based on our analysis of what the general funds look like at 6/30, that we then make a recommendation for a transfer into the public infrastructure sinking fund. So anything that goes into the sinking fund now will be available for our next budget process. So that will be going toward governmental capital projects for the FY26 budget. So we've completed that analysis, and the recommended amounts, our goals are to ensure that we have a stable, undesignated fund balance. Some people might use the term reserve. That's kind of our funds that are available in case of an emergency. We certainly, through COVID, we kept that higher because we knew we were going to have big hits to revenue. Right now, we've been fairly steady, and the recommended amount for FY '24, and this is a retroactive transfer, so it's retroactive to 6/30/24. And that amount for this year is $4 million. Technically, we could transfer and keep our level fairly steady up to 7 million. However, John did have concerns that we might need some additional funding this year, particularly on some of our big federally funded capital projects. We might need some additional funding to meet inflation costs. So we've had, for example, our seawall project. It's looking like those costs have increased. So to make sure that project takes place, we might need to put in some general fund money. Same, there might be a little bit of funding needed for the airport. And then we're also looking at our compensation study, and we want to make sure we have funding in reserve to cover those costs that might come before FY '26.
Thank you. That was a very concise, helpful. Sorry. So yeah, I'll just go ahead and start. I think it's amazing that we have, $7 million surplus. This speaks to the increased economic activity. Sometimes it's a real pain, but like with some downtown sometimes in the summer, but it pays off in things like that. For me personally, I always want to try to do everything we can to meet the needs of the city without adding too much of a tax burden. The cost of government as low as possible. I see this as a way to do that. $4 million to the public infrastructure sinking fund is completely appropriate, and we weren't able to do that a couple of years ago. That's amazing, and I do appreciate the idea of having more reserve. You never know what's going to happen, and you might need some money. Another thing is the grant. Sometimes we have really good grant opportunities, and we could use some of that to match grants that could, leverage our ability to get more funding for projects. So I'm in favor of this. Anyone else?
All right, go JJ.
I had questions for you, Melissa. In the memo, it mentions the Public Infrastructure Sinking Fund and the Capital Project Fund. What are the similarities and differences between those two funds?
So the Capital Project Fund is where all of the funding that the Assembly has appropriated to specific capital projects live. So kind of mechanically, what would happen next year once the budget is approved, if the Assembly appropriates the full 4 million for capital projects, that gets moved into the Capital Project Fund and assigned to whatever those particular projects are in the budget.
So the sinking fund is kind of a side pot that then gets brought back in budget times okay.
Yeah.
And then remind me, last year, was it a 3 million or a 4 million?
4.5 million.
It's 4.5 last year. Okay. So we're similar but different this year, but still in a substantial way. That's really wonderful to see that we have the ability to set this money aside for capital projects moving forward. So I think the 4 million is great.
Yeah, I mean, like I say, there's a lot of factors, I think, in our memo about, in a sense, why this is there. I think one of the bigger ones is that, and it needs to be highlighted, is that we only used 87% of the budget last year, which, when we do budget time, the estimates always underestimate how much money we're going to get and overestimate how much we're going to spend. And there's a lot of reasons for that, staffing, but all of it is just being careful and realizing that, the budget is a very good estimate, but that's all it is. So that's what we did last year. And the other thought I had when I was reading through this is that, again, this is a fairly new idea to do the surplus. And we, not very long ago, hadn't put anything aside for capital, for projects like this at all. And 4 million might sound like a lot of money. But as I recall, and I wouldn't swear on a stack of Bibles, but I think if the unfunded project list, or as John would call it, the alligators, is about 150 million. And we're obviously using, a lot of this is going to be used to leverage federal funding and a little bit of state funding and things like that. But we're making some progress, but we got a long ways to go. And you know, it's not unusual for us to have a surplus, you know, but we definitely need to keep working away and kill a few alligators, figuratively.
Yeah, those are good points, Tor. I'm glad you brought them up.
Well, I'm in favor of this 4 million as well, I think. I mean, it's like everyone has stated, this is a fairly recent event. Like we've had these sort of resources available to us. I think it's important for us to have it ready for the budget process. So.
Thank you, Tim. Anyone else? So we ready for a motion?
I move to transfer 4 million to the Public Infrastructure Shrinking Fund and make this transfer effective June 30th, 2024.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. So Sarah, even though this is a discussion direction, because we made a motion, there's public comment, right? Okay, all right. If there's any public comment on this one, please come on up. Okay, seeing none. I think we already talked about it. Any final comments? No? Oh, yeah, go ahead.
Just a question for the group. So, or maybe more for Sarah. So this will come back as an ordinance with 2 readings? No. Okay. So this is just, we get to decide. Hey.
Chris, did you have anything?
No, nothing really further other than I approve of the amounts being set aside here. So I'm for it.
Okay, Sarah?
All right, on the motion to approve a transfer of 4 million to the Public Infrastructure Sinking Fund and make that transfer effective June 30th of 2024. Mr. Pike?
Yes.
Mr. Mosier?
Yes.
Mr. Celine?
Yes.
Ms. Carlson?
Yes.
Mr. Christensen?
Yes.
And Mr. Yestad?
Yes.
Motion passes 6-0 on item E. Or
Great.
excuse me, F.
Yep.
F.
Thank you, Sarah. Okay, so off to the last one on the agenda, item G.
I move to approve the employment agreement between the City and Borough of Sitka and Rachel Jones as municipal attorney.
Second.
Great, thank you. It's been moved and seconded. Before we go to public comment, we're going to have Josh Branthover come up and introduce this. For those listening, Josh Branthover is our new HR director.
Good evening, Deputy Mayor and Assembly. I would like to first recognize the important role each of you played in the hours each of you put in through this extensive municipal attorney hiring process. After a nationwide search, we found our best candidate close to home. Rachel has been professional, courteous, timely, and thorough at each step of the hiring process. As the CBS Human Resources Director, I look forward to working with Rachel and supporting her as she takes on this vital role. This assembly directed me to negotiate the employment agreement that is presented for your vote tonight. This agreement balances the stewardship of our precious community resources with the need to have an attorney to guide and help us protect those resources through the challenges we encounter. That is all I have pending any questions.
Thank you. We'll go to public comment, and then during discussion, if we have any questions, we'll call you up. Okay, so now we'll go to public comment. Any public comment on this? Seeing none? No? Okay, thought I saw a hand. So go back, let's come back to this assembly for deliberation.
Just want to say that I'm very happy to finally have a city attorney again. I think we've got a good candidate, or not candidate anymore, I guess for another few minutes. But welcome. You know, I'm sure you're aware we've got some big shoes to fill, but at the same time, I have every confidence that you will. And I look very much forward to working with you over the next at least year.
Okay. Okay, no other, I'll just ditto what Tor said. I'm full faith that you're gonna do an excellent job. I personally, I'll give you like a month and then I'm gonna come in with questions and stuff and ordinances. Thank you. That's all I have. Looks like we're ready for a vote.
Does she need to move up here right after the vote?
No, she doesn't start till October 7.
All right, on the motion to approve the employment agreement between the city and borough of Sika and Rachel Jones as municipal attorney. Mr. Mosier,
Yes.
Mr. Pike,
Yes.
Mr. Yestad,
Yes.
Mr. Christensen,
Yes.
Mr. Celine,
Yes.
and Ms. Carlson.
Yes.
The motion passes 6-0 on item G.
Excellent. Welcome aboard, Rachel. Yeah, and thank you for being so patient and professional through this whole process. And we look forward to seeing you. Again, I thought you're starting October 7th, is that correct? Okay. Okay, so that wraps up all the agenda items. We're plowing through this right now. Is there any persons to be heard that's not for any item on or off today's agenda? I'm amazed right now. I don't think I've ever been through one assembly meeting where we didn't have one public comment. I know hope I don't jinx it here, but we're gonna move out of persons to be heard. There's no one up here. Now we'll go to reports. The mayor, he's out right now. So we'll go to the acting administrator. Melissa?
No report. John will be back next week.
Okay. Attorney, I mean, is Mr. Gotti on? Okay, all right. I'd have Rachel come up, but she doesn't technically start until, yeah. So liaison representatives?
We're creeping towards the issues at the library with HVAC being shut down and it's not good in there.
Thank you. Okay, none else. I don't have any.
I got a couple real quick, Kevin.
Oh, sorry, I apologize.
Oh, no worries, no worries. So I guess I'll start out with, I sat in on a planning and zoning meeting, on the 18th. I gotta say that was a really great meeting to sit in on. Really great board, high functioning, very impressed with all of them. They had a really great discussion over a kind of a difficult short-term rental case. And it was just really good to hear different viewpoints and the professionalism that they all gave. It was a really great meeting to sit on. So I just wanted to compliment them all and tell them that they're doing a great job. And then on the 17th, we had our first Port and Harbors meeting for our fall, winter, spring session. One of the big things about this meeting is our port study came back and was presented to the board. Not a lot of huge surprises here. It's kind of a lot of more of the same of our mortgage rates will need to increase every year for basically the foreseeable future if something doesn't change. Cost of construction are, going through the roof at the moment. So unless we find new or different revenue streams, we're going to see a lot of harbor rate increases. The study did offer some potential different revenue streams that the commission is going to start looking at and entertaining. A big recommendation that came out of the port study was a singular tariff. Luckily, GPIP already has one, and we're going to start looking at potentially combining the GPIP tariff and including the port and harbors into that. Let's see, vessel insurance is a big topic that the commission will be looking at this session. And then a big recommendation that is, I think, going to be strongly looked at here over the next year or 2 years is the potential for a port commission, combining all of our port facilities under one roof. It's a big topic, but it was a recommendation coming out of this port study. So I think it's something that Port and Harbors, GPIP, and I'm sure a lot of others will be looking into over the long-term future. That's it.
Thank you, Chris.
I just want to thank you, Chris, for going to that meeting for me. I was out of town, and they really are a great commission. I know I've said it many times, but they are.
Thank you, guys. Okay, that brings us to clerk report.
I just have a couple of things to note. So early voting is happening right now for the municipal election, which is a week from today. Early voting is here at Harrigan Centennial Hall from 8:30 to 4:30, Monday through Friday, and we're open on Saturdays from 9 to noon. On election day, polls are open from 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. We do have visitors in town on election day. So staff and tour operators have been working hard together to move as much visitor activity over to the O'Connell Bridge lightering area as possible on Tuesday so that we can make Harrigan Centennial Hall the location of our 2 voting precincts as accessible as possible. So I thank you everyone for working together on that. That's all I have.
Thank you, sir, for you guys' work, opening up on weekends. You made every attempt to make voting accessible. I appreciate that. Okay, there's no executive session. We had adjournment. Any motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
We are adjourned.